What's up, guys? Mad Max here, and remember that video where the Fiat AC decided to vent itself and I just kind of stopped the video? 500? Well, it's time to fix that today. I got a new AC condenser and dryer to put on the 500e. Stay tuned. Okay, so why am I replacing the condenser when I think it's just the dryer that's bad? Well, if you figure that recharging air conditioning in the summertime costs about $150 to $200, the condenser is $240, the dryer is $60. If the dryer itself doesn't fix it, then I gotta get a condenser, then I have to pay to recharge it again. So I might as well just bite the bullet, do it right the first time, and be done with it. Replacing the AC condenser in this car should be pretty similar to a regular 500. The condenser is different, but, you know, I don't think it's going to be that different in terms of install. So, first off, let me pop the hood, get some screws out, and pop the bumper off. Okay, so to start taking off the bumper, I'm going to take out the 1, 2, 3 Phillips head screws on the inner fender liner in order to get to the screw that holds in the bumper up here. There's a bunch of Torx that run down the top there. Those are going to be last because I want to be standing up when this bumper inevitably comes loose. And there's probably some screws underneath that are holding this in, which we'll find out after we get this one done on the side. Okay, now that I have popped this ridiculously tight front bumper out, and I don't know if this little tab up here was broken before. You can kind of see it right there. I think it was. This little bumper bracket is in there super tight. So if you want to get in there with a Torx and kind of loosen it up beforehand, by all means, but it is tight. Now that I've done this, and as I said, there's the one screw that was right there. It's a T27 that went through the bumper. Now I'm going to do the underside. Then I'm going to move around to the other side, turn the wheel the other way, get the 3 Phillips out on that side and the Torx up here, and do the same thing, yank it out. And I just noticed there is one more attachment point down here, which feels like a Phillips. So I would say take that out too. Okay, so underneath, I don't know if you can see, but there are, I already got that first one loose. You have quite a few little T27s holding the bottom of the bumper in. So start taking those out. If you would like to put this car up on ramps, it certainly would make your life a lot easier, especially if you have a lowered 500 like mine. Okay, so grand total of 3 T27s under there. Before I do the other side, I'm just going to loosen up these bolts here, which are also T27s. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to loosen these up. We're not going to take them out completely because, well, I don't want the bumper to fall off once I take off the other side. And holy cow, is that in there tight. That one wasn't. That one wasn't, and that one wasn't a little tight. So, loosened all these up. I'll spin them out fully once I get the other side unbolted with the 3 screws, the 3 Phillips head screws that hold in the inner fender liner, counting the, actually, 4 screws holding in the fender liner, because you have the 3 that go up and down like this, and then you have 1 underneath, and then the 1 T27 that holds this bumper to the body. And then we can pull this bumper off and get to this AC condenser. Now that this is unplugged, well, I can tell you that there's usually supposed to be a clip that holds this in, but that doesn't hold that in. And there's a plug right here that's green that you, whoop, unplug that, take that off the frame, unplug your side markers, which again, somebody, oh, actually, this one has an intact plug. Hallelujah. And that. And then lift your bumper up and away. Throw it on something soft. Now, as I've said before, this car has had paint work, and this bumper is not exactly in what I would call the best shape. So I'm not being that careful with it. If you really cherish your car and it's absolutely mint, maybe be a little bit more careful. Well, that leaves us with this front end, and I can already see we have an EV specific shroud there. We have a little radiator that goes in front of the condenser, and then we have the condenser directly behind it. So let me start disassembling here and figure out how to take this apart. So I already took out this shroud here, but it's held in with an 8mm bolt on each side and then these little tabs up top. If you kind of do this, you'll pop the tabs really easily. Worst case, you gotta get a pick just to push them down, but this pops right out. And I'm gonna pop out this lower shroud here, which is held in with 2 8mm on each side, so a total of 4. Next up is this beat up auxiliary cooler here. I'm not going to disconnect it fully. What I'm just gonna do is unbolt it. It appears to be held in with 2 8mm on this side, and then it's just hooked in on this side. So that's attached to the condenser, so I definitely have to take it off, but I believe I can just let it hang. So let me take those off. So the upper bolt that goes on that cooler holds in the bottom of the condenser. The top one is buried behind the crash bar. Now, I guess theoretically book time would say to remove this crash bar. I'm gonna try with a wrench just to get in here and do it. And unfortunately, I don't have a ratcheting 8mm, which, because I probably should get more tools. You can't fit a ratchet in here, really, so you're kinda stuck. It appears to be coming out. I'm gonna try this off camera and continue this. Actually, it's almost out. If you can sneak this bolt out, you don't have to remove the crash bar, which I think I would really like to not remove the crash bar. And I might not be taking this out fully right now because I do want to take the AC lines off. I'll show you where those are located. On this particular condenser, they are located right there. So you take that little E-Torx out, and then you can take the condenser lines off. One other thing I forgot to mention, I did have the system evacuated. Do not disconnect AC lines unless you have the system completely evacuated. Otherwise, you're gonna get a big cloud of smoke and a face full of refrigerant and oil for the compressor. It's not gonna feel good. So, just wanted to make mention of that before I take that off. Now, I know I did just say I had this evacuated. I'm just kind of taking this off slowly. Now, when they evacuate, they leave the system at a full vacuum. So this is probably just air rushing in. So, as you can see, it's spraying all over the place. So, leave this until it stops hissing. I guess he didn't get all of it. Ooh, lovely. We got some nice green dye dripping out of here. We'll clean this up after. And as you can hear, it has now stopped. Now, if this was fully charged, this would be way louder than what you just heard. So that was just a little bit of air getting back in the system, or maybe a tiny bit of the refrigerant didn't get sucked out under vacuum. Now, I would suggest leaving this closed for as long as humanly possible. Now that I have this bolt loose, I will take my 8mm out up here. Okay, so now that my condenser has bled out some Hulk blood, here's the new condenser in front of the old condenser. What apparently ends up happening is that these dryers get clogged up, and you might be able to get away with doing the receiver dryer. However, as I said before, the cost difference between the dryer and the condenser is about as much as recharging a second time when you find out that the condenser is also clogged. This is dealer only. I think it lists for about 300 bucks. I have a dealer account, so I paid $240, and I think you can find them even cheaper online, but they are dealer only. One last thing to mention, there's a little tab you have to push in right there to get this little thing to slide out. And there's probably was one on the bottom, but I think it broke off because this is probably not the first time that somebody's been in here. So let me... just heard the box knock over there. So let me drop this back in and connect those lines so they are not sitting open for very long. Okay, now that the top bolt is in, I can't put the bottom bolt in yet because I still have to put in this cooler here. Make sure that your connection is tight and then blast this thing down with some cleaner just to get all the dye and refrigerant off the area. Then we shall bolt this cooler back up and put it all back together. Okay, everything back together. Just got to plug in both sides here and put the bumper back on and get it recharged. Okay, all done. You can't, nope, can't see the new condenser in there at all. Oh well, that's fine. Now, last thing to do, let me take it over to my mechanic, have him recharge the system, and fingers crossed I no longer am blowing out white clouds of refrigerant every time I put this air conditioner on and have to sit at a light. Okay, so day got a little bit away from me, and it was raining a lot of the day, so unfortunately couldn't get off some shots until now. However, I wanted to talk about the symptoms that I was getting with my clogged condenser. Now, if you noticed earlier in the video, I was talking about how that stuff blew out and that maybe it was a vacuum. It wasn't. It was because the condenser was so clogged that they couldn't vacuum all the stuff out of it, because you have to have a loop going through, and if it's clogged on one side, it can't suck out any more stuff. So that's why it blew out some stuff, but as you saw, it didn't blow out a lot. If you tried to do that on a system that was full, you would be greeted with a massive cloud of refrigerant. So just to explain that to you very quickly, the symptoms I was getting, the air conditioning wasn't particularly cold even with a fresh charge. Just wasn't really cooling off the car. And as I said, the biggest thing was I would stop at a light, and if I was sitting for a few minutes, all of a sudden the pressure would really build up, and suddenly I would get a massive cloud of white refrigerant smoke coming out of the release valve. So those were my main two things. I think I have the air conditioning problem licked now. It is blowing nice and cold. It is not making any kind of crazy noises, and so far I have not tried to disappear in a cloud of refrigerant. So, thanks for watching. Hope this helped you 500E people that need to replace your air conditioning condenser. Other than needing the proper tools to evacuate the system, it's very straightforward and very DIY-able. Yeah, so hope it helps. Thanks for watching.